Hello, my name is John. I'm 43 years old, and I've been married to my wife Lisa for 15 years. We live in a quiet suburb in Illinois, where everyone knows each other, and life moves at a slow, predictable pace. Our house is modest but cozy, a two-story building with a white fence and a small garden that Lisa loves to tend to. We have two children, Sophia and Ethan. Sophia is 12 years old, a bright and friendly girl who loves to draw and dreams of becoming an artist. Ethan is 10 years old, an energetic boy who is always running around with his friends, climbing trees and playing soccer. They are the light of my life, and I have always sought to ensure a happy and stable life for them. Lisa is a homemaker. She left her job as a graphic designer when Sophia was born. She has always been the heart of our family, organizing neighborhood events, volunteering at the kids' school, and making our home a warm and welcoming place. I work as an IT manager at a mid-sized company, which keeps me busy, but still allows me to spend time with my family. From the outside, our married life seemed perfect. We had our ups and downs like any couple, but we always found a way to solve our problems, or so I thought. I never imagined that beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to form, and the life I valued was on the brink of collapse. To anyone looking at us, we were the exemplary American family, living the dream in our little suburban corner. But dreams can be deceptive, and, as I would soon discover, my dream was nothing more than an illusion, a fragile shell that would crumble under the weight of betrayal. It all began about 6 months ago. Lisa's behavior started to change subtly. At first I dismissed it, thinking it was stress or just a phase she was going through. But over time, those changes became more evident and harder to ignore. Lisa, who had always been attentive and loving, now seemed distant and absorbed in her thoughts. She started spending more time on her phone, often smiling at messages and quickly hiding the screen when I walked into the room. When I asked about it, she brushed it off, saying it was just her friends or neighborhood gossip. I wanted to believe her, so I let it go, telling myself I was being paranoid. Her social calendar, once filled with PTA meetings and book clubs, now included mysterious outings with vague explanations. She dressed better than usual, wore makeup, and donned outfits she hadn't touched in years. "I'm just meeting an old friend," she would say, or "I'm helping with a charity event." Again, I chose to trust her, though a growing doubt lingered inside me. Our intimate life, once vibrant and regular, nearly disappeared. When I tried to initiate intimacy, she often turned away, saying she was too tired or not in the mood. On the rare occasions we did make love, it felt mechanical, lacking the passion we once shared. I began to feel like a stranger in my own home, and my wife became a cold figure who seemed to drift further away each day. I wasn't the only one who noticed. Sophia and Ethan sensed the tension too. Sophia, wise beyond her years, asked me one night if everything was all right between Mom and Dad. I reassured her that everything was fine, but the doubt in her eyes was hard to ignore. Ethan, on the other hand, seemed more withdrawn, sensing something was wrong but unable to express it in words. As weeks turned into months, my suspicions only grew. I started noticing small details that didn't add up. Lisa came home late with weak, inconsistent excuses. She became more secretive, guarding her phone as if it held state secrets, and I saw guilt in her eyes when I asked where she had been. One Saturday when Lisa went out for errands, I decided to do my own investigation. I checked her phone while she was in the shower, but she had changed the password. That was unusual. Lisa had never hidden anything from me before. With a deep sense of unease, I became more convinced that something was wrong. Then there was her friend Laura. Laura had been a close friend of Lisa's for many years, but lately, their friendship consumed more and more of Lisa's time. They went out for drinks together and spent entire weekends together, and it was Laura who Lisa exchanged messages with late into the night. I couldn't shake the feeling that Laura was more than a friend, but without proof, I had only my doubts and suspicions. I tried talking to Lisa several times, but each attempt ended in a fight. She accused me of being paranoid and controlling, turning the situation around to make me feel guilty for even doubting her. She insisted I was imagining things, and that she was just trying to have a life outside our marriage. But her explanations were always too vague and rehearsed. The breaking point came one night, when Lisa came home very late, her clothes disheveled and smelled of alcohol. She stumbled through the door, laughing at some joke I wasn't privy to, and I couldn't take it anymore. I demanded to know where she had been and with whom, but she brushed it off, mumbling something about Laura and a girls' night out. That night, lying in bed unable to sleep, the suspicions that had tormented me for months crystallized into a painful clarity. Lisa was hiding something, something that was tearing our family apart, and I knew I had to uncover the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The days following Lisa's late-night return were filled with anxiety and determination. I needed to know the truth, and I decided to take matters into my own hands. One night, I found an old smartphone in a drawer that we used as a backup for emergencies. I activated it, set up a new number, and installed a GPS tracking app. My plan was simple: place the phone in Lisa's car and track her movements. The opportunity came the following Friday. Lisa said she was going out with Laura again. As she prepared, I quietly slipped the phone under the passenger seat of her car, my heart pounding in my chest as I watched her drive away, completely unaware of my actions. That night, I checked the GPS tracker and saw that Lisa had parked in a remote park on the outskirts of town. My heart raced as I drove to the location, a mix of fear and determination guiding my every move. Upon arrival, I parked at a safe distance and started walking toward where Lisa's car was. The park was quiet, the night air filled with the chirping of crickets and the rustling of leaves. As I approached, I saw Lisa's car and another car parked next to it. My pulse quickened as I got closer, keeping myself hidden among the trees and bushes. Then I saw them, Lisa and a man, locked in a passionate kiss as if nothing else in the world mattered. My breath caught, and a wave of anger and despair washed over me. I watched as they broke the kiss, and Lisa leaned toward the man, whispering something I couldn't hear. The intimacy of the moment, their blatant disregard for everything we had built, felt like a knife twisting in my stomach. I couldn't bear it any longer. Driven by a mix of anger and pain, I stepped out from my hiding spot and approached them. "Lisa!" I shouted, my voice shaking with rage. They separated, startled and wide-eyed. The man stepped forward, trying to protect Lisa, but I was already too close. "Who are you?" I demanded, fists clenched at my sides. "John, please, it's not what you think," Lisa said, her eyes filled with panic. "Not what I think," I exclaimed, my gaze fixed on the man. "Who are you? What are you doing with my wife?" He tried to speak, but I didn't give him the chance. The fury that had been building inside me for months exploded, and I punched him in the jaw. He staggered back, falling to the ground, while Lisa screamed, running to his side. I took out my phone and snapped several photos of them together. Lisa kneeling beside him, her face a mix of fear and guilt. "This is your fault," I said to Lisa, my voice trembling. "You did this to us, to our family." "John, please, let's talk about this," she pleaded, but I was no longer listening. I needed to get away from her, from this betrayal, before I did something I might regret even more. I turned and walked to my car, ignoring Lisa's pleas for me to stop. My hands shook as I drove back home. The images of Lisa and that man seared into my mind. I parked in our driveway, took a deep breath, and looked at the photos I had taken. The evidence was clear, undeniable, irrefutable proof of her infidelity. When Lisa returned home later that night, she found me sitting in the living room, the photos spread out on the coffee table. She stopped in the doorway, her face pale and exhausted. "John, please, I can explain," she said, her voice barely audible. "What is there to explain?" I shouted. "That you've been lying to me for months? That you've betrayed me? What can you possibly say to fix this?" She collapsed into the chair opposite me, tears streaming down her face. "It all started as a simple friendship," she began, her voice trembling. "But then it got complicated. I felt lonely, John. You were always working, and I felt abandoned." "Abandoned?" I repeated, unable to believe what I was hearing. "I was working to support our family, to give us a good life, and this is how you repay me?" Lisa sobbed, covering her face with her hands. "I'm sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. I love you, John. Please believe me." But I couldn't believe her. The trust that had once been the foundation of our relationship was destroyed, replaced by an abyss of betrayal and pain. "I can't do this anymore, Lisa," I finally said, my voice empty. "I want a divorce." Her sobs grew louder, but I remained firm. The life we thought we were building together was over, replaced by a painful and uncertain future. As I left the room, leaving Lisa in tears, I knew there was no going back. The betrayal was too deep, the wounds too fresh, and all I could do now was try to pick up the pieces and move forward step by step. The days following our confrontation were filled with cold and tense silence. Lisa tried to make amends, but I was too angry and hurt to listen. I needed to do something to take control of the situation and make her feel the same pain she had caused me. And then I had an idea. If Lisa could betray me with her friend, I could do the same to her. Lisa's best friend Jessica was someone I knew as well as Lisa. She was sociable, attractive, and always had a rebellious streak. The idea of using her to get back at Lisa was risky, but I was willing to try. I needed her help to make Lisa feel the same horror of betrayal that I felt. I approached Jessica, asking her to meet for coffee. When she agreed, I felt a mix of anticipation and nervousness. I knew I had to be cautious. Jessica was loyal to Lisa, but she also had her own issues with her. If I could appeal to her sense of justice and maybe her residual frustrations, she might be willing to help. We met at a small cafe in town. Jessica arrived with her usual confident smile, but it disappeared when she saw the seriousness on my face. "John, what's going on? You sounded urgent." I took a deep breath and told her everything. Lisa's affair, the confrontation, and the months of deception that led to this moment. Jessica listened attentively, her expression changing from surprise to anger as I recounted the details. "That bitch," she muttered when I finished. "I can't believe she did this to you." "And I can't," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "But I need your help, Jess. I want her to feel what I feel. I want her to know what it's like to be betrayed by someone you trust." Jessica looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay, John, I'll help you. What do you want me to do?" The plan was simple but effective. Jessica and I would pretend to have an affair and make sure Lisa discovered it in the most painful way. It wouldn't be real, there would be no physical relationship between us, but it would be enough to destroy Lisa's sense of security and make her doubt everything. Over the next few weeks, Jessica and I meticulously planned our deception. We started spending more time together, ensuring that Lisa noticed. We met for coffee, took walks in the park, and even had dinners at each other's houses when Lisa was home. Each time, we left subtle clues for Lisa to pick up on: a lipstick stain on my collar, the scent of Jessica's perfume on my clothes, and hushed conversations that stopped when Lisa entered the room. Lisa's reaction was immediate and predictable. She became increasingly suspicious and paranoid, her guilt amplifying her reaction to our supposed affair. She constantly questioned me, her eyes filled with fear and anger. "Where have you been?" she demanded one night when I came home late from a supposed meeting with Jessica. "Out," I replied curtly, avoiding her gaze. "What does it matter?" Her eyes narrowed. "With Jessica again, I suppose?" I shrugged, feigning indifference. Maybe. The tension between us grew thicker each day. Lisa's paranoia reached such a level that she began checking my phone, looking for any incriminating evidence. Of course, I had anticipated this and made sure to leave only suggestive hints of messages between Jessica and me to keep her suspicions alive. One night, we decided to take it a step further. Jessica and I agreed to meet at a bar in the city center, a place where we knew Lisa would see us. I made sure to leave my location open on my phone, knowing Lisa would check it as soon as I left the house. At the bar, Lisa arrived shortly after, her eyes scanning the room until they landed on us. Jessica and I were seated in a booth, our heads close together as we whispered and laughed. When Lisa approached, her face was a mask of anger and betrayal. "What's going on here?" she shouted, drawing the attention of everyone in the bar. I lifted my head, feigning surprise. "Lisa, what are you doing here?" "Don't play games with me, John," she snapped, her voice trembling. "I knew you were up to something. And you, Jessica, how could you do this to me?" Jessica looked at her calmly. "Lisa, why don't you sit down and we can talk about this?" "Talk about what?" Lisa's voice was shrill, on the verge of hysteria. "How you've been cheating on me." I stood up, looking at Lisa. "Maybe you should think about why we're here," I said, my voice low and firm. "Think about what you've done." Lisa's face paled, then flushed with anger. "Are you blaming me? You're unbelievable." "Am I?" I stepped closer, my eyes locked on hers. "You lied to me, Lisa. You betrayed me with your friend. Did you think it wouldn't have consequences?" For a moment, Lisa seemed ready to explode, but then she crumbled, her shoulders slumping in defeat. "I never wanted it to go this far," she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "Neither did I replied coldly. "But here we are." Lisa ran out of the bar, her sobs echoing in the dimly lit atmosphere. I watched her go, feeling a mix of satisfaction and sadness. Jessica placed a hand on my shoulder, her face full of compassion. "Are you okay, John?" she asked softly. I nodded, though the reality of what we had done was starting to set in. I will be, I said. Thank you for helping me, Jess. I couldn't have done it without you. Jessica gave me a sad smile. I'm sorry it came to this. Lisa, she's changed. But I'm here for you, whatever you need. Driving home that night, I couldn't help but feel a hollow victory. Lisa had felt the sting of betrayal, but the satisfaction I had hoped to gain was overshadowed by the reality of our crumbling marriage. The trust between us was irreparably broken, and I knew nothing would ever be the same. Lisa avoided me for the next few days. The atmosphere in our house was filled with tension and unspoken words. She spent most of her time in our bedroom, only coming out when necessary. I could hear her crying at night, her sobs muffled by closed doors. Part of me felt guilty for causing her so much pain, but another part of me was glad she was finally feeling at least some of what I felt. One night, as I was sitting in the living room, Lisa came down the stairs, her eyes red and swollen from crying. She stood in the doorway, looking small and defeated. "John, can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I nodded, motioning for her to sit. She sat on the edge of the sofa, her hands twisting nervously in her lap. "I don't know what to say," she began, her voice shaking. "I've made so many mistakes, and I know I've caused you deep pain. I don't know how to fix this." I looked at her, the woman I once loved more than anything in the world, the woman who had betrayed me in the worst way. "Lisa, I don't know if this can be fixed," I said, my voice monotone. "What you did, it destroyed something between us." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I know, and I'm so sorry, John. I never meant to hurt you. I felt lonely, and I made terrible decisions." "And what about Jessica?" I asked, my tone sharp. "What you did with her, was that another terrible decision?" Lisa's face contorted, and she buried her head in her hands, sobbing. I don't know anything anymore." For a moment, I almost felt pity for her. Almost. But the pain she had caused me was still too fresh, too raw. "Lisa, I think we need time apart," I finally said. "I need to figure out if I can ever trust you again." She looked at me, her eyes wide with fear. "Please, John, don't leave me. I'll do anything to fix this. Just tell me what to do." I shook my head, standing up and walking to the door. "I don't know, Lisa. Maybe nothing can be done. Maybe it's already too late." As I left the house, with the weight of our collapsing marriage on my shoulders, I knew the road ahead would be long and painful. But for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. Hope that I can rebuild my life, piece by piece, and find a way to move forward from this nightmare. Deciding to divorce Lisa was not easy, but it was necessary. The betrayal, lies, and emotional pain created an insurmountable gap between us. I contacted a divorce lawyer, Marcia Evans, who came highly recommended for her relentless approach and expertise in family law. We scheduled our first meeting, and I prepared for the arduous journey ahead. Marcia's office was in a sleek, modern building downtown. Walking through the glass doors, I felt a mix of fear and determination. The receptionist greeted me warmly and led me to Marcia's office, where she sat behind a large mahogany desk, exuding calm and professionalism. "John, it's nice to meet you," Marcia said, extending her hand. "Please, have a seat." I took a deep breath and sat down, feeling the weight of the situation pressing on me. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice." Marcia nodded, her face sympathetic. "Divorce is never easy, but I'm here to help you navigate this process as smoothly as possible. Tell me a bit about your situation." I told her everything: Lisa's affair, the confrontation, and the months of deception leading up to this moment. Marcia listened attentively, taking notes and asking questions when necessary. When I finished, she leaned back in her chair, contemplating my story. "From what you've told me, it sounds like you have grounds for a divorce based on marital infidelity," Marcia said. "We'll need to gather evidence to support your case, but with the details you've provided, I don't anticipate any major issues." I nodded, feeling relieved that at least part of this chaos seemed straightforward. "What about custody of our children?" "That's my biggest concern." Marcia's face softened. "Custody battles can be complicated, but we'll do everything possible to ensure the well-being of your children is the priority. Given Lisa's conduct and its impact on the family, we have a strong basis to seek primary custody. Over the next few weeks, Marcia and I worked diligently to prepare for the legal proceedings. I gathered evidence of Lisa's affair, including the photos I had taken and copies of incriminating messages. I also documented the changes in Lisa's behavior and how they affected Sophia and Ethan. It was a painful process, reliving the betrayal and pain, but it was necessary to build a strong case. Meanwhile, Lisa hired her own lawyer and fought with a ferocity I hadn't expected. She accused me of being controlling and emotionally distant, trying to paint herself as the victim. It was outrageous, but Marcia remained calm and focused, assuring me that our case was stronger. The first court hearing was a surreal experience. Lisa and I sat on opposite sides of the courtroom, our lawyers presenting our cases to the judge. It was hard to listen as Lisa's lawyer twisted the truth, making me seem like the villain of her infidelity. But Marcia refuted each argument confidently, presenting our evidence clearly and convincingly. After the hearing, the judge issued a temporary custody arrangement during the divorce proceedings. I was granted primary custody of Sophia and Ethan, with Lisa allowed supervised visits. It was a small victory, but it gave me hope that the final outcome would be in our favor. Throughout the process, I focused on providing a stable and loving environment for my children. Sophia and Ethan were understandably confused and hurt by the changes in our family, but I did my best to reassure them that they were loved and everything would be okay. We established new routines, spent time together doing activities they enjoyed, and leaned on family and friends for support. As weeks turned into months, the legal battle dragged on. There were more hearings, depositions, and endless meetings with Marcia. Each step was exhausting, but I remained determined to see it through to the end. I knew the outcome would be worth it, and that my children and I would emerge stronger and more resilient. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the day of the final hearing arrived. Lisa and I sat in the courtroom, our lawyers presenting their final arguments. I could see the tension on Lisa's face, and I knew this process had taken its toll on her as well. But I couldn't allow myself to feel compassion, not after everything that had happened. The judge reviewed the evidence and listened to both sides before issuing the final decision. In the end, I was granted primary custody of Sophia and Ethan, and Lisa was given limited visitation rights. The division of assets was fair, and I was awarded the family home to ensure the children's stability. As I walked out of the courtroom, I felt a sense of relief and closure. The legal battle was finally over, and I could focus on rebuilding our lives. Marcia shook my hand, offering words of encouragement and support. "You'll be fine, John," she said. "You've been through a lot, but you have a bright future ahead." I thanked her, grateful for her guidance and expertise. As I left the courthouse, I felt a renewed sense of hope. The road ahead would still be challenging, but I knew I had the strength and determination to create a better life for my children and myself. Returning home that night, I found Sophia and Ethan waiting anxiously, their faces full of worry. I hugged them both tightly, reassuring them that everything would be all right. We spent the evening together, talking and laughing, the weight of the past few months finally starting to lift. The legal process had been a long and difficult journey, but it was necessary. It taught me the importance of resilience, the value of family, and the strength that comes from facing adversities head in. Looking at my children, I knew we were ready to move forward, heal, and embrace the future with open hearts and minds. The divorce was finalized, and the legal battles were behind us. The dust settled, and it was time to move on. Sophia and Ethan adapted well to our new reality, and I focused on creating a stable and loving environment for them. The home, once filled with tension and uncertainty, was becoming a refuge of peace and recovery. I took some time off work to be more present for the kids. We established new routines that gave them a sense of security. Mornings were for having breakfast together and starting the day with a smile. Evenings were for family dinners, followed by board games, movies, or just talking about our day. Weekends were for adventures, trips to the park, hiking, or exploring nearby towns. Despite the challenges, the bond between us grew stronger. Sophia, with her artistic talent, began to fill the house with her paintings and drawings. She found solace in her creativity, and I encouraged her every step of the way. Ethan, with his boundless energy, immersed himself in soccer. I attended every game, cheering him on from the sidelines. Watching them thrive brought me immense joy and a renewed sense of purpose. One Saturday morning, while we were having breakfast, Sophia looked up from her cereal bowl and said, "Dad, you seem happier now." I smiled at her, appreciating her insight. "Yes, sweetheart. We're starting a new chapter, and I'm excited about it. Ethan joined the conversation. Do you think we'll ever have a mom again? The question caught me off guard. I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. Right now, we're focusing on us, but maybe someday we'll meet someone special. The important thing is that we have each other, and that's enough for now. The kids nodded, satisfied with my answer. Their resilience and optimism inspired me, reminding me to stay positive and open to the possibilities ahead. Over time, I reconnected with old friends and made new ones. The support from family, friends, and even colleagues was invaluable. They helped me see that life after divorce wasn't the end but a new beginning. One night, I received a message from an old friend, Laura. We had lost touch over the years, but she had heard about my situation and decided to reach out. We decided to meet for coffee and catch up. Seeing her again was like a breath of fresh air. We reminisced about old times, shared stories about our lives, and laughed like we hadn't in a long time. Laura had gone through her own struggles, and her strength and positivity were contagious. Our friendship quickly rekindled, and soon we were spending more and more time together. She got along wonderfully with Sophia and Ethan, who took to her almost immediately. Her presence brought a new light to our lives, a sense of hope and companionship that had been missing for so long. One evening, while we were sitting on the porch after dinner, Laura turned to me with a thoughtful expression. John, you've been through so much, but you've come out stronger. It's inspiring to see how dedicated you are to your kids and rebuilding your life. Her words touched me deeply. I couldn't have done it without the support of everyone around me, including you. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the sunset. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly content. The pain of Lisa's betrayal was fading, replaced by a sense of peace and possibility. As months turned into a year, Laura and I grew closer. What began as a supportive friendship blossomed into something more. She became an integral part of our lives, her love and kindness filling the void left by the past. One night, as we were all gathered in the living room, Sophia and Ethan snuggled up next to us. I knew it was time to take the next step. I looked at Laura, my heart full of gratitude and hope. Laura, I began, taking her hand. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want to walk this path with you. You've brought so much joy into our lives, and I can't imagine our future without you. Tears filled her eyes as she smiled. John, I feel the same way. I love you and the kids, and I want to be here for all the moments to come. Sophia and Ethan, sensing the importance of the moment, hugged us both tightly. We love you too, Laura, they said in unison. In that moment, surrounded by the people I loved most, I knew we were finally healing. We had faced the storm and emerged stronger, ready to embrace the future together. Life after Lisa had been a journey of pain, growth, and discovery. It taught me the importance of resilience, the value of family, and the power of love. Looking at Laura and my children, I felt a deep sense of gratitude. We had come a long way, and I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. Our new life was just beginning, filled with infinite possibilities and the promise of happiness. Moving forward, I would remember that, even in the darkest moments, there is always hope for a brighter tomorrow. Bye-bye.